Hello, Adrian again. This is the part of my Science and the Bible talk which deals with informatics. Okay, I'm going to look at information, the theory of information and the science of information, which is a reasonably new field. I mean, certainly 20th century. Certainly later than physics and chemistry and other sciences. And so I want to see how this sort of fits in as well with the biblical worldview. Okay, evolution claims that by the laws of physics and chemistry, matter plus energy plus lots and lots of time, billions of years, this was sufficient to bring everything into being that we see. Okay, that's what evolutionists claim. Now, I admit that I've plagiarized this material from Dr. Werner Gitt, who's a German, but of course I'm giving you the reference, so it's not plagiarism really. It's just acknowledging him. But just back a bit, he's a German professor of informatics who's also a Christian, and he lectures on this subject. And he's sort of actually, I think he's been the innovator of a lot of this field of science. Okay, and he states there are three types of entity which exist. There's matter and energy, which of course is dealt with by physics and chemistry, information and life, and these are separate things. And science deals with the laws of nature. Okay, if we are looking at things scientifically, then we do experiments which are repeatable, and on the basis of this, then we formulate laws of nature. We don't just invent things and think this might be the way it happens, but these are how experiments are done. Okay, and so science deals with the laws of nature. Matter and energy is dealt with by the laws of physics and chemistry. E equals mc squared, that's Einstein's equation. Energy equals mass times the square of the speed of light, which means that matter and energy are actually interconvertible, but the total amount of matter plus energy is constant, and the physics is dealt with, and that's a nice chemical compound. We were talking about nail varnish remover the other day. That's nail varnish remover, acetone. And these are dealt with by physics and chemistry. Okay. And life, there's also life. Laws of nature concerned with life as well. Nobody really knows what life is. There isn't a definition. We know if something's alive or it isn't. We look at it and it's alive or it isn't. But nobody can actually define really what life is. But Pasteur did experiments to show, I think he was, about 18th century, Pasteur? I'm not actually sure. But he did experiments to show that life only comes from life. Before that, they believed in something called spontaneous generation. They thought that if you had a piece of rotting meat, then flies would spontaneously generate from the meat. But he showed that, the only way that you could get flies was if other flies came and laid their eggs, and that's why they came. So life only comes from life, okay? But what about information? Laws of nature concerning information are not quite so well known, so I want to look at some of these. Information has 5 levels. These are some awkward words, but I'll explain what they mean. Statistics, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, and apobetics. The 5th one, I think, the word was actually invented by Professor Gitt. The other ones are perhaps better known. Okay, so what does it mean? Statistics means the volume of data that you have in information. So in other words, if you count the number of letters or the number of words or the number of chapters or something like that in a book and report that, then that tells you something about the book. It tells you about how long it is, but it doesn't actually tell you anything about what the book is about or sort of what the essence of it is. Syntax, you have a code system, which, for example, a language has a given grammar. I just thought that was quite funny. Spiff syntax. Oh, jumping gerunds. Oh, never mind. I thought it was funny. Colourless green ideas sleep furiously. Okay, that is a sentence which is grammatically correct, but it doesn't mean anything. Okay, it's nonsense. But the syntax of it is correct, but the meaning of it is not very sensible. Okay. Now the next one, the semantics, is the meaning of a message. It says you rock, you rule. Okay, a few puns there, plays on words. Okay. The pragmatics is, okay, if you pass on a message, then you expect an action. For example, if you read a book on how to build a house, then the action to be expected is that you get on with it and start building. And the apobetics is the purpose, which is the desired result. For example, if you train and you read a book on athletics and how to train, and you train and you do it, then you run a race and you win, and that's the purpose. And information has all these levels. Okay, look at an example if that was a bit complicated. For example, you have a book. It's a cookery book, okay? And statistics means it contains a certain number of letters, words, and chapters, but that doesn't really tell us a great deal, okay? The syntax of the language means it's written in a certain language with letter combinations, words, and grammar. And certain combinations of letters occur in certain languages and others don't, and you can tell if a word that says ibobliku, something that word says, well, that is obviously not an English word because J and B don't occur together and sort of things like that. It's not an English word, but you get certain combinations with grammar and so on. Is the syntax. And then the most important thing really is that a language passes on a certain message. I mean, that's really what you want. And that is the essence of a book. If you read a book, you want to know what the message is. And it is written with letters, and it's written with a language in a grammar, but what you really want is the meaning of the message. Okay? And this is always the same irrespective of the 2 points. I've just illustrated this because here we have some more cookery books, but they're not perhaps going to tell you very much. This one says, the one on the left says, Családi szakácskönyv, még több egyszerűen és gyorsan elkészíthető étel. Okay, that doesn't really help very much, does it? And the one on the right says Pravoslavnaya kuchnia, okay, which is even written with a different alphabet. And I'm not going to attempt to read the one in the middle. Sorry? Anyone speaks Korean, actually? Anybody know Korean? Yes, it's Korean. Yes, okay. So they're all cookery books, but, that one's Hungarian, Korean, and Russian, basically. They're in different languages. Okay. An example, then, pragmatics, is that you read a cookery book so that you can cook something tasty. That's the actual practical outworking of it. And the next one, the purpose of it is so that your family has a good meal. So those are the 5 different levels. Oh, is that clear so far? It's sort of, this is a bit more technical. So, laws of information that Werner, this professor, has come up with. Something material cannot create anything immaterial. Okay, not so fast. Okay. Okay. Okay, something material cannot create anything immaterial. Okay. So basically, physics and chemistry just working in a random manner cannot bring into being something that is not material in itself. Okay, perhaps it will become clearer. And because information is not material. Okay, information is a non-material entity and not a property of matter. I'll give you some illustrations on some of these things. Okay, the point of a book is not that it comprises ink printed on paper. Okay, a book is made of, it's paper, okay, a standard book, it's paper, it's got ink, which is printed onto the book, and it's got glue, which glues it together, but that isn't really the point of the book, is it? And so the actual physics and chemistry of a book is that it's ink printed on paper, but that in itself doesn't give you any information, because information isn't. And the fact, if you have paper and you throw ink at it in a random manner, you're not going to get information out of that, which passes on a message. Okay? And in fact, Paul Davies, who is in fact an evolutionist, said, how did stupid atoms spontaneously write their own software? Nobody knows. There is no known law of physics able to create information from nothing. That's a scientist who admits that, which is really quite obvious, actually. Spontaneous movement of atoms in terms of the laws of physics and chemistry will not create immaterial information from nothing. Okay. Information requires a material medium for storage and transmission. As I mentioned, ink printed on paper is a storage medium which can transfer information, but it's not the information. Okay. For example, here are certain storage media which can carry, known as data carriers, which can carry information. The top one is Egyptian hieroglyphics. Okay, that is actually a means of writing, which is, you know, symbols carved on stone, which actually is a language which passes on information. And then, of course, there's various different kinds of computer floppy disks and cassettes and memory stick and a book. They all carry information. They're all material, either stone or paper or electronic bits and bytes and things. Are all material, but they don't. They're not the information itself. Okay. Information cannot originate in statistical processes, as I mentioned. This is the photograph on the left is just waves, you know, working on the sand, and it creates a form of pattern, but it doesn't convey information. It's a random process, and it may even form some sort of order. You can get order, for example, if you freeze water into an ice crystal, then that will have a certain pattern to it, but it doesn't contain information. And that because it's formed by statistical processes. Even the sandcastle at the top, the sandcastle conveys the message that somebody built that. That wasn't made by the waves and the wind. But again, it doesn't actually give any concrete information because it's not a code for a language. But it does show that someone made it. The one at the bottom wasn't created by winds and waves either. As somebody has come along, obviously there's been an intelligent source that has written that word there in the sand, even if we don't know who that is. Okay. And there can be no information without a code. Okay, carry on. Written language uses two codes. It's interesting. A combination of individual sounds codes for meaning. So if you've got a huh, if you just make sounds with your mouth, that's, you know, it's interesting, isn't it, that human language consists of certain sounds that we put together. So h, a, n, d together, hand, means this, okay? But it's a code because in other languages, a different combination of sounds would mean the same thing. Okay, and the next one, in Egyptian hieroglyphics, that symbol is a D, is a letter D, for example. So written symbols code for sounds. So you've got the sounds which code for meaning and the written symbols which code for sounds, okay? So all codes result from an intentional choice between sender and recipient, okay? Okay, this is Korean again. So if you just see that, then, you know, most people here probably wouldn't be able to make much of that. Is there anybody know what that says? No? Okay. Well, in fact, Korean has an alphabet. It's not characters like Chinese. It's actually an alphabet. And that top symbol on the top left is a k, a, m. So it's kam. So if you read the whole lot, it says kamsahamnida. Okay, so that's what that actually says in Korean symbols. But that probably doesn't mean any more to you than the symbols, does it? No. Okay. It means thank you. Okay, so it means thank you in Korean. Okay. So the determination of meaning for and from a set of symbols requires intelligence. So you need an intelligent sender and you need an intelligent recipient in order to make anything of these things, okay? And there can be no new information without an intelligent, purposeful sender, okay? Again, any chain of information can be traced back to an intelligent source, okay? Again, I've got an illustration here. If you're listening to your radio from a loudspeaker and you're getting meaningful information, you're getting language coming through, you're getting someone passing on a message, well, the source of the information is not the loudspeaker, is it? So we trace it back, and we go one back and we say, well, the loudspeaker's getting its information from the aerial, but the aerial isn't the source of information either. And we go back, and the transmitter isn't, and then we go further back, and then we've got an intelligent source. We get someone speaking into a microphone, which is changed into electronic signals, which is changed into radio waves, which is changed back in electronic signals, which is changed into sound waves, and you finally get the information through. But if you trace it all the way back, if it's information, then it's got a sender. It's got someone who's actually giving you the information, okay? And information comprises the non-material basis for all technological systems, works of art, and biological systems. For in order to understand any of these things, you need to have information passed on. Okay. So, in consequence of this,